Primary election day in Oregon has come and gone, and now at 6, we are recapping some of the biggest items on yesterday's ballot.
That includes the measure to raise the gas tax and other vehicle fees.
Taxes, Measure 120. See you later.
Our Corey Johnson joins us live in the studio to break down where things stand and what it means for your wallet.
We also have the latest on the race for the GOP gubernatorial candidate, who will take on incumbent Governor Tina Kotek in the November general election ahead.
Plus, what's next for the 4th position in Clackamas County Board of Commissioners after former Commissioner Melissa Fireside was criminally charged and fled the country. That's all coming up as your News at Sunrise starts right now. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on your Wednesday. I'm China Green.
And I'm Matthew Herchick. Happy to have you with us this morning. Rod Hill and Chris McGinnis standing by, as always, with a look at our weather and traffic. It was a nice election day yesterday, Rod, and going to be even nicer today.
Well, I mean, a little bit warmer in the temperature department. Otherwise, pretty similar, really. I think this afternoon will be more just all out sunny. We had partly cloudy skies kind of come and go during the day on Tuesday. This is our star pupil this morning. Again, the Shalem Tasting Room camera out in Sherwood showing the rising sun with partly cloudy skies. Temperature is 47 degrees. It is overcast for the most part in downtown Portland. There you can see the cloud cover. And by the way, getting set up for the start of the Rose Festival, Memorial Day weekend. You can see the action going on there along the waterfront. 53 is the number, and to the bus stop we go. So low 50s out the door, sun's up, of course, 62 degrees at noon, mainly sunny, and I think it could be almost clear later today. Temperature is right around 70 when the kids get out of school. Here's Chris.
That looks really good, Rod. All right, let's get you out the door. We'll start off in Clark County right there. That's I-5 up near Salmon Creek and the 205 split. Of course, that's an area of road work and paving that has been ongoing and will continue to be an active work zone. But this morning, no delays there, so I wanted to let you know about that. We've seen some lengthy delays there the last couple of mornings, but not today. I-5 near Swan Island, traffic zipping along just fine there. Of course, we've got road work that has the exit ramp from Interstate 84 westbound to Moda Center and the Convention Center. That is now closed through June 8th as ODOT gets prepared to put a sign bridge over I-5. So your detour around that will be the exit up near Weiler. So far, traffic zipping right along. No major delays out there. We've got a speed limit clip on the freeways right now. Guys, back to you.
Chris, thank you. Well, Oregon voters have decisively rejected Measure 120, the statewide transportation funding measure that would have raised gas taxes and other fees to help fund road maintenance projects across the state.
Early results show more than 83% of voters oppose the measure. Now, state leaders are left to figure out what comes next for ODOT and transportation funding. Sunrise reporter Corey Johnson in studio this morning on what this all means for the future funding for ODOT.
Yeah, Matthew, China, the vote wasn't even close. Measure 120 would have upheld parts of a transportation funding package passed by lawmakers last year, including a 6-cent gas tax hike, higher vehicle registration and titling fees, and an increase to the transit payroll tax. But voters rejected it in a landslide, with more than 83%, around 900,000 people, voting no in early returns Tuesday night. Now, the funding package was designed to help ODOT deal with a growing budget crisis. This as gas tax revenue declines and costs continue to rise. Now, lawmakers passed a slimmed-down version of the bill during a special session last fall, but a Republican-led group quickly gathered enough signatures to put the tax and fee hikes on the ballot. Without that new funding, ODOT previously said it faced a funding gap of about $242 million this year.
And that's a message. That's not just a vote. That's not just an anti-tax message to me. That's also an accountability for how tax dollars were spent. And that should be a big part of the discussion between, whoever the Republican candidate is and the governor. There's going to be accountability messaging that needs to happen ahead of November.
Now that voters have rejected the measure, lawmakers will likely have to go back to the drawing board in order to come up with another long-term transportation funding plan for the state. Matthew, China.
Thank you very much, Corey. And another major race. We are following up on who will go up against Governor Tina Kotek in November's gubernatorial race.
The AP and the Oregonian projecting State Senator Christine Drazen to win the Republican nomination for governor. Here's more from our panel of experts last night on what we can expect from this rematch between Kotek and Drazen.
Looking at a rematch against Governor Kotek 4 years on this November. She says she's a different candidate this time. She says a lot has changed, and Governor Kotek has had 4 years to prove herself and has either the wrong priorities or the inability to execute them. Give me a sense. Do you think a Republican can win this cycle in Oregon?
I think it will be the same challenge it's always been, that we have an electorate that has voted for a party, that has voted for a movement and a position for decades. It will be very hard to change that. I do think that Senator Drazen, with some familiarity, experience, she's gone toe-to-toe, will make that rematch interesting.
Meanwhile, moving on to Congress, Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley, going for his 4th term in the Senate, will advance to the general election. Merkley collecting more than 93% of the votes from Democrats. And we don't know who he will face off against just yet. Currently, State Senator David Brock Smith of Curry and Coos counties in the lead for the GOP. Joe Ray Perkins and Brent Barker following close behind with more than 20% of the vote.
And looking at Oregon's only real swing district here, Congressional District 5, it hits the Portland Metro, south through Lynn County and over to Central Oregon. Associated Press calling this for Deschutes County Commissioner Patty Adair on the Republican side. One of Adair's main running points was affordability. And she will be facing incumbent Democratic Congresswoman Janelle Bynum. This is a seat that Democrats flipped in 2024 when Bynum knocked off Republican Lori Chavez-DeRemer.
For Oregon's only Republican seat in District 2, incumbent Cliff Bentz with a landslide victory. He got nearly 80% of the vote. If he wins the general election, it will be his 4th term representing Eastern and Southern Oregon. And he'll be up against Democrat and former state representative Chris Beck.
Another race is shaking up Multnomah County Circuit Court. We have a position-only sitting judge in the county to draw a challenger here. Judge Adrienne Brown losing her seat to Peter Klim. Brown made headlines when DA Nathan Vasquez refused to let her take on major felony cases with a memo saying that he found errors in her decisions. Klim winning the majority with 70% of the vote. And for live up-to-date results, head over to KGW.com. That's where you can find the latest information on all the key races as the votes keep coming on in. Well, today is National Dog Rescue Day, and in the spirit, we got to look at how Oregon Humane works with dogs that need a little more behavioral training before they can be ready for adoption.
That's right. Jay Coulter has the story.
This is Fozzie.
When dogs are rescued from tough situations, it can take some time for them to readjust. Like Fozzie here.
He was avoidant of people. He did not want to be touched. He would barely take treats from people, and he would growl and try to move away.
Annika Howland manages Oregon Humane's behavior modification program, which helps dogs that struggle when they arrive at the shelter.
Well, we have 4 professional dog trainers on hand who are spending hours a day training with these dogs, working on emotional regulation, your basic manners, socializing with people and other dogs, and sometimes just training them to do nothing.
Each dog has its own individualized training plan. Howland explains how the program helped Fozzie blossom over the last 6 weeks and made him adoptable.
So moving down here, he had a quiet place to decompress. He saw the same faces every day, so he could start to build relationships and trust.
And while Fozzie needed help coming out of his shell, Howland says that they also work with dogs on the opposite end of the spectrum.
So Sasha here is 6 months old and has been in the behavioral program for 6 weeks as trainers worked to channel her abundance of energy into more positive behaviors. And she became adoptable last week.
So instead of jumping on us, we're working on having her sit instead of pulling on the leash, focusing and paying attention to us when we go for walks, sniffing instead of pulling. You ready?
The program has been around for about a decade, but moved into this building in 2022. Since that move, Howland says around 350 doggy graduates of the behavior program have been adopted, 47 so far this year. Jay Coulter, KGW News.
I just think that the folks who work at Oregon Humane are doing the Lord's work, because
They are.
That's a tough job to train all those puppies and to not go home like every week with a new one.
That's why I
No?
could never volunteer. I could never foster. I would just end up with 1 million dogs, Rod.
Yeah.
Personally, I like a dog that jumps in your lap and just goes crazy. And
Me too.
Yeah, me
I
too.
do.
Gives you a
Yeah.
face wash.
Yeah, makes you feel loved.
My old, my black lab Concerto, it's been probably 12 years ago since I've lost Concerto, but she was like that. Oh, and she was like that her entire life. Here's a look at the Oregon Veterans Home camera out in the Dalles. Rising sun out there in Wasco County. Your Wednesday will be west 10 to 20. You'll be up at least into the mid 70s. We have partly to mostly cloudy skies showing up down in Salem. This is a sunny spot out in Washington County. So you jump out over the West Hills and you find increasingly clear skies. Let's see what the temperature is down to. 47 degrees out there. And then you get closer to downtown Portland. This is looking up over the West Hills from the Oregon Zoo camera. They're out there working on the observation deck construction already. 52 is the number out at PDX and downtown Portland. 50 degrees in Wilsonville. See, Salem, we just saw 49. It's 43, one of the cooler spots out in McMinnville this morning. It is a dry day, so no weather-related issues. All dry if you're traveling up to Seattle, down to the California border, 84 all the way out through the Blues. Good-looking weather. This afternoon at 5 o'clock, 67 Baker City, 73 in Madras, 70 or better from Kelso down to Eugene. And I think for highs, generally pretty close to 60 along the coast. Got Portland at least in the 70s, maybe going to 74, and we think we'll hit 80 starting tomorrow for maybe 3 days in a row through Saturday. Sunday still dry, and if you are just joining us, the big story is the confidence meter for showers on Memorial Day is doing this. It's really starting to go up into the likely category. 64 degrees, still scattered showers into Tuesday at this point as well. Here's Chris McGinnis.
Okay, Rod, we've got a traffic alert on the southbound Glen Jackson Bridge. Photojournalist Chad DeHart manning the wheel here. You can see he's coming up on a fender bender here that has the southbound left lane blocked. So traffic is starting to bunch up a little bit around this. Again, getting your way out of Clark County and heading south on the bridge. We'll keep you posted on this. There was also a report of a disabled vehicle northbound, so a couple of trouble spots over there. Looks like folks are getting around that okay for now, but again, a little bit of a delay on that southbound 205 commute. China and Matthew, we'll keep you posted.